They call it supply chain management. I call it conducting an orchestra where every musician is a psychopath, every instrument weighs 40 tons, and one missed note costs 7 figures. My name is Seth Langley. For 19 years, I was the central nervous system of Titan Freight Solutions, the third largest logistics operation in North America. You've never heard of me, but if you ordered furniture from Wisconsin, ate strawberries in January, or got emergency generators after a hurricane knocked out your power grid, I'm the reason those things arrived. I was the director of vendor relations, which is corporate code for the guy who knows every dirty secret, has every phone number, and can make or break your quarterly earnings with 3 phone calls. I didn't have an office with mahogany panels and a skyline view. I had a windowless room on the 3rd floor that smelled like burnt coffee and desperation. The fluorescent lights hummed like dying bees. I loved it. The silence let me hear the rhythm of the machine. I could predict when a dock strike in Baltimore would derail deliveries in Denver 4 days before the union leadership finished their first planning meeting. I knew which carriers inflated their fuel surcharges and which ones would drive through a tornado because I pulled strings for them in 2011. I had the entire continental distribution network mapped in my head like a combat strategist. But here's the thing you need to understand. Before I explain how I brought down a $3 billion empire using nothing but institutional knowledge and a forwarding email address, I never wanted revenge. I just wanted to do my job without some trust fund moron getting in the way. Hey, quick pause before I walk you through the systematic destruction of a corporate dynasty. Hit that subscribe button and drop a like if you enjoy watching entitled Rich Kids Learn Expensive Lessons. The algorithm loves chaos. Thanks. Now let's get to the good part. The trouble started with a retirement. Old man Corwin, the founder, didn't die. He just got tired, sold his yacht, bought a villa in the south of France, and handed the keys to his son. Richard Corwin was a ruthless businessman, sure, but he understood tonnage, deadlines, and diesel costs. We had mutual respect. He stayed out of operations. I kept the freight moving. Everyone got paid. Then Nathan Corwin walked through the door. Nathan was 29, fresh from business school, teeth so blindingly white they could guide ships into harbor. He wore Italian suits that cost more than my mortgage payment and spoke exclusively in buzzwords he'd learned from TED Talks. The kid couldn't tell a bill of lading from a grocery receipt, but suddenly he was steering the ship. First week, he installed a meditation room. Second week, he fired the entire IT security team to streamline costs, which meant our servers got hit by ransomware within 72 hours. By month 2, he was parading around with a woman named Vanessa, our new chief culture officer, which seemed to be code for his girlfriend who needed a 6-figure salary. I kept my head down. I'm a professional. I survived the 2008 crash, a pandemic that shut down half the ports on the West Coast, and a cyber attack that forced me to reroute shipments using paper maps and a fax machine. I could survive Nathan Corwin, or so I thought. The friction built slowly, like rust on a chain. Nathan didn't trust me. I was old guard. I was the guy who still printed shipping manifests because I didn't trust cloud storage during a crisis. To him, I was a dinosaur. To me, he was a hood ornament on a freight truck, shiny, decorative, and the first thing to shatter when you hit a pothole. The breaking point came on a Thursday. I was neck-deep in negotiations with the Gulf Longshoremen's Union. These are hard men who've been loading ships since before Nathan learned to tie his shoes. I'd been on the phone with their chief negotiator, a guy named Vincent, for a week, 6 hours, hammering out a contract extension that would keep our southern shipping lanes open for another 3 years. Nathan strolled past my desk. Vanessa trailed behind him like a show dog. "Seth?" he said without stopping, tossing the words over his shoulder like loose change. "We need to talk about your workspace. It's cluttered. Bad energy for the investor tour next week." My desk was covered in contracts, customs documents, and handwritten notes that contained more operational intelligence than his entire brain. It was the nerve center of a billion-dollar logistics network. "I'm in the middle of the Gulf renewal, Nathan," I said, covering the phone receiver. "If I stop now, you lose mobile in New Orleans." He turned, flashing that condescending smile people give to confused children. We have software for that now, Seth. Move it to the cloud. Seriously, lose the paper. It's embarrassing. He walked away. Vanessa giggled. Vincent was still on the line. Everything good, Seth? Fine, Vinny, I said, mentally lighting a cigarette I quit smoking 12 years ago. Just a minor interruption. Now, about that overtime clause in Section 4. I saved the contract. I saved the Gulf lanes. Titan made $62 million on that deal over the next 2 quarters. Did Nathan thank me? No. I got an automated email from HR about the new Clean Desk initiative, but the real betrayal wasn't professional. It never is. It's always the personal disrespect that detonates the bomb. It was late September. Peak season was starting. Halloween shipments, Thanksgiving inventory, Christmas madness, everything moving at once. I was working 14-hour days, fueled by coffee and spite. Then, the invitation landed in my inbox. Subject: mandatory attendance, celebrating visionary leadership. Join us this Saturday evening at the Corwin Estate for an exclusive celebration honoring CEO Nathan Corwin's 30th birthday. Cocktails, networking, and inspiration. Attendance is mandatory for all senior leadership. Saturday. The busiest Saturday of the quarter. The day our pharmaceutical cold chain shipment from India was clearing customs at JFK. Temperature-sensitive cargo that required my personal oversight. If it sat too long, $2 million worth of medicine would spoil and we'd eat the insurance claim. I hit reply. Nathan, happy early birthday. Unfortunately, I can't attend. I have critical pharma clearance operations Saturday evening that require live monitoring. Enjoy the celebration. Best, Seth Professional. Polite, reasonable. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. The next morning, the office felt different. You know that electric tension before a lightning strike? The air was thick, phones were quiet. People looked at me, then looked away fast. I sat down, booted up my computer, took a sip of cold coffee. Login failed. Access denied. I typed my credentials again. Access denied. I reached for my phone to call IT, but I heard footsteps. Heavy, deliberate. The click of expensive shoes on cheap carpet. Seth. Nathan's voice. Not friendly today. I turned my chair. There he was, flanked by Vanessa holding an iPad and 2 security guards who looked deeply uncomfortable. Server issues? I asked, though my gut already knew the answer. We're making changes, Seth, Nathan said, smoothing his tie. It was red silk, a power tie for a man with no power. Your refusal to engage with team culture, your resistance to modernization, it's become a pattern. You're not aligned with our vision. I stared at him. The silence stretched. You're firing me, I said flatly, because I'm working Saturday instead of watching you get drunk. It's about cultural alignment, Vanessa interjected, her voice nasal and sharp. We need people who resonate with our frequency. I looked at Vanessa. I looked at Nathan. I looked at the security guards who wouldn't meet my eyes. Nathan, I said, my voice dangerously calm. I manage vendor contracts for you. 4,000 carriers. I'm the authorized signatory for the Port of Los Angeles, Teamsters Local 802, and the Northeast Customs Clearance Alliance. If I walk out that door, those relationships don't transfer to your meditation app. Nathan laughed. It was a hollow, ugly sound. Everyone's replaceable, Seth. Business 101. Now hand over your badge. I looked at my desk. The files, the notes, the framed photo of my dog, Murphy. I stood slowly. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I didn't flip the table. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my ID badge, and dropped it into Nathan's hand. Okay, I said. Nathan looked disappointed. He wanted a scene. He wanted me to grovel. Tell your father I said good luck, I added. My father's in France, Nathan sneered. He doesn't care about middle management. He will, I said. I grabbed my keys, my phone, and the picture of Murphy. I walked to the elevator. As the doors closed, cutting off Nathan's smug face, I checked my watch. 9:17 a.m. By 9:45, the first cracks would appear. By noon, the entire network would realize the heart had been ripped out. I wasn't just middle management. I was the kill switch, and I'd just been activated. The parking lot smelled like rain and gasoline. October clouds hung low and gray, but I felt light. For the first time in 19 years, I felt free. I walked to my truck, a 2014 Silverado with a dented tailgate from a loading dock incident in 2018. I tossed my stuff on the passenger seat. I didn't start the engine right away. I just sat there, listening to the rain tap the roof. Most people, when they get fired after 2 decades of loyalty, they panic. Mortgage payments, health insurance, identity crisis. Sure, part of me was running those calculations. I'm a single guy in my mid-40s. The job market isn't exactly hunting for people who know how to manually calculate shipping weights using metric conversions from the 1990s. But another part of me, the part that had negotiated with mob-connected trucking unions and bribed customs officials with scotch and favors, was already moving into tactical mode. Except this time, I wasn't managing the crisis for Titan. I was the crisis. I pulled out my phone. Personal cell. Thank God I'd always kept a firewall between my life and company property. I opened my email, not the company account Nathan's IT team had already locked, but my personal Gmail. The address I'd given to every port authority, every union boss, every warehouse manager over the last 19 years. Call this number if the building's on fire, I used to tell them. Well, I just struck the match. I didn't send a mass email. That's amateur hour. That's evidence. No, I needed surgical precision, compliance-level destruction. I typed a draft. Subject, notice of personnel change. Immediate effect to whom it may concern. Effective immediately, I, Seth Langley, am no longer employed by Titan Freight Solutions. As such, I am no longer the authorized signatory or point of contact for active service agreements, compliance certifications, or rate negotiations. Per Clause 9C of our Standard Master Vendor Agreement, key personnel continuity. My departure may trigger an automatic review or suspension of credit terms pending appointment of a qualified successor. Please direct all urgent matters to Nathan Corwin, CEO. Regards, Seth Langley. I read it twice. Dry, factual, legally airtight. Clause 9C. That was the nuclear option. Years ago, when Titan was expanding aggressively, our credit rating was shaky. Vendors were nervous. To reassure them, old man Corwin let me insert a clause into major contracts. If key personnel, meaning me, left the company, vendors had the right to freeze services or demand cash up front until they vetted new management. It was a trust clause. They trusted me, not the company. Nathan had no idea Clause 9C existed. Nathan probably thought a master vendor agreement was a type of whiskey. I hit send, then I hit send again and again. And Atlantic Shipping Consortium, sent. Boston Port Authority, sent. California Border Logistics, sent. I went down the list alphabetically, 20 emails, 30, 50, each one a ticking bomb. My phone buzzed. Vincent from the Gulf Union. Seth, what the hell? I just got a bounce back from your work email saying, user not found. I'm out, Vinny, I said, leaning back in the seat. Nathan let me go this morning. Culture fit. Vincent laughed, a harsh bark. Does that kid know the contract we signed Tuesday isn't even filed yet? He thinks software handles it. Software don't buy my crew beer when they work Christmas Eve, Vincent growled. So who's clearing the hazmat shipment tonight? That stuff needs certified sign-off. That would be Nathan, I said, or maybe Vanessa. She resonates at a high frequency. Vincent snorted. Yeah, I ain't risking my guys. If you're not signing, the trucks don't roll. Clause 9C, right? Clause 9C, I confirmed. Copy that, Seth. Trucks are parked. Good luck out there. The line went dead. One domino down. I started the truck and pulled out of the lot. As I drove past the building, I saw a line of Titan trucks heading toward the yard. Big blue rigs with silver logos. Drivers had no idea that in about 40 minutes, their fuel cards would be declined because the fleet vendor, a guy named Bobby, I sent a fruit basket to every Christmas, was about to read my email. I didn't go home. I drove to Rosie's Diner, a greasy trucker joint 3 miles away. Vinyl booths, coffee that tasted like battery acid, hash browns cooked in oil older than Nathan. Perfect. Coffee, hun? Rosie asked as I slid into a corner booth. Keep it coming, Rosie. And the Wi-Fi password? I set up my laptop on the sticky table. My phone started vibrating. Incoming calls, one after another. Midwest Logistics Dispatch. Northeast Freight Hub, Nathan Corwin, work. I stared at Nathan's name flashing on the screen. I let it ring. He called again. I let it ring again. I sipped the battery-acid coffee. It tasted like victory. I wasn't done yet. I'd notified the vendors. Now I needed to let Nathan feel the silence before the screaming started. I opened a browser tab and pulled up the live tracking system, publicly available, showing Titan's fleet. Green dots meant trucks moving. Red dots meant trucks stopped for more than 30 minutes. Red dots were starting to bloom across the map like blood on gauze. Chicago. That would be the Midwest hub. The security gate codes rotated weekly. I used to text the new codes to drivers every Monday. Today was Thursday. The system required manual override every rotation cycle. I hadn't done the override before I left. Nathan probably didn't even know the gates had codes. He probably thought they opened by vibes. My phone buzzed again. Text from an unknown number, area code 6177, Boston. Mr. Langley, this is Davidson, legal counsel for Northeast Heavy Haul. Our drivers are locked out of the Titan yard in Massachusetts. Your office is unresponsive. Are we in breach? I typed back. Mr. Davidson, I no longer work for Titan. Please reference Clause 9C. I cannot authorize yard access. Best of luck. 3 minutes later, another red dot appeared in Massachusetts. Beautiful. At 11 a.m., my phone rang. Not Nathan this time. It was Vanessa, her voice shrill and panicked. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity is a drug. This is Seth. Seth, she shrieked. She sounded like she was hyperventilating. You need to give us the access codes. The drivers are calling the police. Vanessa, I don't have access codes. They're on the server. We can't get into the server. It keeps asking for authentication sent to your phone. Ah, I said. That's two-factor authentication. Very important for cybersecurity, especially after Nathan fired the security team. Well, give me the code. I can't, Vanessa. I'm a civilian now. Sharing security credentials with unauthorized personnel violates federal computer fraud laws. Auditites could go to prison. You wouldn't want that, would you? Silence. Stunned, confused silence. But Nathan says you're sabotaging us. Nathan fired me, Vanessa. That revoked my clearance. If I give you that code, I'm committing a crime. I won't break the law for a company that doesn't employ me. I'm putting you on speaker, she hissed. Seth. Nathan's voice, tight, strained. The arrogance was cracking. Stop playing games. Give us the code or I'm suing you for corporate sabotage. Nathan, I said calmly, you fired me for culture fit. You said I was replaceable. Surely your Agile team can reset a password. We called it. They said only the account admin can authorize it. That's you. Sounds like a structural flaw in your org chart, I said. I'd recommend calling the IT vendor's emergency line. Costs about $8,000 an hour, but they can override it in, maybe 36 hours. 36 hours, Nathan exploded. We have 600 tons of frozen seafood sitting in pas de hands. Houston, it'll spoil. Seafood, tricky. You need refrigerated units running continuously. Did you renew the fuel contracts for the reefer fleet? Those expire on the 20th. Today's the 21st. I usually handle that manually because the automated system glitches. I heard something crash. Sounded like a desk being kicked. Fix it, Seth. Come back and fix this, and maybe we don't destroy you in court. Are you offering me my job back? I asked. I'm offering you a chance to not be annihilated. No thanks, I said. I'm busy. I'm reorganizing my garage. Very therapeutic. I hung up. My hand was shaking slightly. Not fear. Adrenaline. I'd just hung up on a CEO mid-tantrum. I looked at the tracking map. More red dots. Houston now. The seafood. I felt a flicker of guilt. Not for Nathan, for the drivers. They were collateral damage. I pulled up my contacts, found the number for Garcia, the foreman at the Houston cold storage facility. Garcia, it's Seth. I'm out. The kid's driving off a cliff. The fuel cards are going to bounce. Don't let your guys sit there. Hook up to shore power at your facility. Charge it to the emergency contingency fund. I set it up in 2017. It's still active. Garcia texted back instantly. Got it, Jefe. Heard the news. We got the shrimp covered. But we ain't releasing loads until you say so. Screw the kid. I smiled. The shrimp were safe. The drivers were safe. Nathan was drowning. I closed the laptop. Sitting in a diner was reactive. I needed to be proactive. I thought about who stood to benefit most from Titan's collapse. Global Trans Logistics, our biggest competitor. Their VP of Operations, a cutthroat operator named Lawrence Graves, had been trying to recruit me for 15 years. I always said no. Loyalty to old man Corwin. Loyalty's a two-way street. Nathan had bulldozed it. I pulled out my phone, dialed Lawrence's direct line. He answered on the first ring. Seth Langley, his smooth voice purred. To what do I owe this unexpected pleasure? Did you finally get tired of propping up a sinking ship? I'm available, Lawrence. A pause. A very expensive pause. Available? Fired this morning. Where are you? Rosie's Diner on Route 12. Stay there, Lawrence said. I'm sending a car. We'll have lunch. We'll discuss the future. Lawrence, I said, one thing. Yes? I'm not coming alone. I'm bringing the Port of LA, the Gulf Union, and the Northeast Customs Alliance with me. I could hear him smiling through the phone. I'll send the executive car, he said. A black Cadillac Escalade pulled into the gravel lot of Rosie's Diner 20 minutes later. It looked absurd next to the pickup trucks and rust buckets. The driver, a guy built like a nightclub bouncer, opened the door. Mr. Langley, I grabbed my laptop and jacket. Rosie waved from behind the counter. Moving up, Seth? Just a different ride, Rosie. I slid into the back seat. It smelled like leather and ambition. As we merged onto the highway toward downtown, I checked. The industry news on my phone. Nothing on mainstream networks yet. Logistics is invisible until it breaks. But the trade publications were lighting up. FreightWire, Titan Freight Systems experiencing critical IT failure. Ports report gridlock supply chain digest. Who is Seth Langley? Why carriers are refusing Titan loads? I was trending. In the nerdiest, most obscure corner of the internet, I was a celebrity. My phone buzzed. Voicemail. My sister. Seth, Mom's church group heard you got fired. Pastor Ron is praying for you. Also, Aunt Linda wants to know if you can still get her that discount on shipping her eBay antiques. Call me. Even in the apocalypse, Aunt Linda needs her collectibles shipped. We arrived at the Capitol Grill, a steakhouse where the waiters wear tuxedos and the water costs $12. Lawrence Graves was waiting at a private table in the back. He looked like a man who'd calculated every angle before getting out of bed. Tailored suit, silver hair, eyes that saw profit margins in everything. Seth, he stood, extending a hand, you look liberated. I look unemployed, Lawrence. Semantics. He gestured to the chair. Sit. Let's discuss your future. A waiter appeared. I ordered whiskey. Neat. Lawrence ordered sparkling water. So, Lawrence said, leaning forward, what do you want? VP title, equity? We can beat your old salary by 30%. I don't want a job, Lawrence. I want autonomy. Explain. I want to build a division, strategic carrier relations. I bring my network, my contacts, my credibility. I run it independently. No interference from your innovation consultants or culture officers. I report to you, nobody else. And if I say a shipment moves, it moves. If I say we pay premium to get a driver home for his kid's birthday, we pay it. Lawrence tapped the table with one finger. His eyes narrowed. You're asking for a kingdom. I'm offering you an empire, I corrected. Titan is hemorrhaging. By tomorrow, their major clients, Amazon, Costco, Walmart, will be looking for a lifeboat. I can be that lifeboat, but I steer. Lawrence smiled. It was a shark's smile. I respected it. Deal, he said, but I need the Port of LA with you, immediately. We have a backlog that's costing us millions. Done. Draft the contract. While we waited for the steaks neither of us would eat, my phone buzzed again. Text from an unknown number. You sabotaged the customs encryption. This is criminal. It was Nathan. I texted back. I didn't sabotage anything. I just didn't renew the annual encryption license. It expired at midnight. You should have checked the auto-renewal settings. I took a sip of whiskey. It burned. It was perfect. Then a notification made my stomach drop. Alert. Department of Transportation. Incident report. Titan freight vehicle involved in multi-vehicle accident on I-90. Hazmat spill reported. Hazmat. That was the chemical shipment Vincent had refused to move. I called Vincent immediately. Seth, tell me you saw the alert. I saw it, Vinny. Was it one of your guys? Hell no, it was a scab driver Nathan hired off some gig app an hour ago. Non-union, no hazmat certification. My blood went cold. Oh, God. Kid took a turn too fast, jackknifed, spilled industrial solvent across 3 lanes, EPA's en route, FBI's asking questions. This wasn't just business anymore. This was a federal case. Is the driver okay? He's in the hospital. He'll live. But Titan? They're finished, Seth. Dot's grounding the entire fleet pending a safety audit. Immediate suspension. I looked at Lawrence across the table. He saw my expression. What happened? He asked. Titan just killed itself, I said. Hazmat spill. Unlicensed driver. Dot is shutting them down. Lawrence whistled softly. The stock's going to crater. Nathan doesn't just need a lawyer, I said, standing. He needs a miracle. Where are you going? Lawrence asked. Draft the contract. I have to make sure my people don't go down. With the ship. And then I need to have a conversation with a very angry father. Richard Corwin's private jet was landing in 2 hours. I checked the flight tracker. This wasn't just business. This was a reckoning. I didn't go straight to the private airfield. I went to the archives first. Titan kept physical records in a climate-controlled facility near the industrial park. I still had a key. I needed the original liability agreements signed by Richard Corwin, the ones that explicitly stated operational safety was the CEO's sole responsibility. I needed proof that when I walked out, the chain of custody snapped and the negligence landed entirely on Nathan. I was knee-deep in a box labeled 2016 Hazmat Protocols when the metal door rattled. You're trespassing, Seth. I turned. Arthur Brennan, Titan's general counsel, 63 years old, suit that cost more than my truck, eyes that had seen every corporate war and learned to feel nothing. It's not trespassing if I still have the key, Arthur. Arthur sighed. He walked in slowly, pulled a handkerchief from his pocket, wiped dust off a file cabinet, and leaned against it. Dot seized the servers, Arthur said. Nathan's locked in his office. Vanessa's posting apology videos on Instagram. It's a nightmare. He hired a scab for a hazmat run, Arthur. What did he expect? He expected you to fix it, Arthur said quietly. He thought you were bluffing. He didn't understand that you weren't just an employee. You were the infrastructure. I didn't sabotage anything, Arthur. I just stopped holding the pieces together. I know, he said. That's why I'm here. The board's meeting tonight. They want to offer you a settlement, a significant one. Come back. Talk to the DOT. Say this was a miscommunication during a transition period. I laughed. It echoed in the cold room. A miscommunication. A guy's in the hospital. The EPA is cleaning toxic chemicals off a highway. You want me to go under oath and call that AEE? Paperwork error? We want you to save the company, for the employees, for the drivers. I am saving them, I said. I'm moving them. I'm taking a position with Global Trans, and I'm taking everyone who wants a future. Arthur's face fell. He knew what that meant. And Richard? Arthur asked. What about him? Does he know? He knows the stock's crashing. He doesn't know why yet, but he lands in 90 minutes. He's going to blame you, Arthur warned. He can blame whoever he wants, I said, grabbing the file. But he's going to listen. I walked past Arthur. He didn't stop me. Seth, he called out. I paused at the door. That email, Clause 9C, brilliant, evil, but brilliant. Read the fine print, Arthur, I said. I wrote it. I drove to the private airfield outside the city. The sky was clearing, pale blue breaking through the clouds. I parked near the perimeter fence and watched the runway. A Gulfstream G550 descended, white and sleek. It touched down with a screech that sounded like a scream. Richard Corwin was home. I didn't approach the plane. I waited by the gate where his driver usually met him, but the driver wasn't there. The driver had probably quit, or been fired, or was stuck in the chaos. The plane taxied, the stairs lowered. Richard Corwin stepped out, 70 years old, but he moved like a man half that age. He was on his phone, shouting. Even from a distance, I could see the fury radiating off him. He looked for his car, saw nothing. Then he saw my truck. He stormed over, coat flapping in the wind. You, he snarled, pointing. You ungrateful son of a... Get in, Richard, I said, using his first name. I never used his first name. He stopped. The shock silenced him. Get in, I repeated. Your driver's not coming. Nathan fired half the dispatch team. Nobody told the car service you were early. I'm the only ride you've got. He stared at me, looked at the empty lot, looked at his phone, which was lighting up with bad news. He yanked open the door and climbed in. "Drive," he growled. I pulled out of the airfield. "Explain," he said, his voice like gravel, "why my company is worth half what it was yesterday morning." "Fasten your seatbelt, Richard," I said. "It's a long story, and it starts with your son's birthday party." "You destroyed my legacy," Richard said, staring out the window as we drove. "No, Richard, I just stopped protecting it. There's a difference. Nathan said you locked him out, sabotaged the systems. Nathan doesn't know the difference between a security protocol and a latte order. I left. The systems collapsed because I was the only one holding them together." He was silent for a long moment. "The accident," he said, his voice quieter now. "The driver, he'll live. But the EPA fines will drain your cash reserves, and the DIAT's grounding your entire fleet for a safety audit. I have lawyers. Not enough, not for gross negligence. Nathan hired an uncertified driver off a gig economy app. Because he fired the union liaisons. That's criminal, Richard." Richard closed his eyes. For the first time, he looked old. "What do you want, Seth? Your job back? A raise? You want me to fire Nathan?" "I don't want my job back," I said. "I'm done. I'm taking a position with Global Trans. I'm bringing the network with me." The silence was absolute. "You wouldn't," he whispered. "I already did. The Port of LA transferred the contracts this afternoon." Richard looked like he'd been shot. "You're destroying me. You destroyed yourself when you put a child in charge of a warship. We were approaching Titan headquarters, police lights flashing, news vans on the lawn." "Drop me at the service entrance," Richard said. I pulled around to the loading docks where I'd started 19 years ago. Richard opened the door. He paused. "Seth," he said. "Yeah, Richard. If I fire Nathan, if I fire him right now, will you stay?" I looked at the loading docks, the cracked concrete, the empire I'd built, with sweat and sleepless nights. "No," I said. He nodded. He understood. He slammed the door and walked toward the chaos. I put the truck in reverse. I didn't watch him go. I had a contract to sign. 3 weeks later, my new office at Global Trans has floor-to-ceiling windows. I can see the harbor from here. Cranes loading ships. Some of those containers still have faded Titan logos, but they're covered with Global Trans stickers now. The media called it the acquisition of the decade. Business Insider wrote a profile. They called me the architect of collapse. I hated it. My mom loved it. She framed it. Nathan's facing federal charges. Vanessa flipped on him for immunity. She's launching a podcast about toxic work environments. I subscribed. It's unintentionally hilarious. Richard sold the company to Global Trans for $1. We absorbed the pension liabilities, the fleet, the warehouses. The drivers kept their benefits. Vincent sent me a bottle of whiskey with a note to the boss. We roll when you say roll. I was sitting at my desk, looking at the clean dashboard on my monitors, when my assistant knocked. "Mail, Mr. Langley." A stack of letters, vendor renewals, thank you cards, and a small envelope from the county jail. I opened it. Handwritten, from Nathan, "Seth, you think you won. You're still just a cog. You'll always be a cog. Enjoy your cubicle." I looked at my corner office, the view, the empire I now commanded. I didn't feel anger. I felt nothing. He was a ghost, a glitch I'd patched. I walked to the shredder, fed the letter in, watched it turn to confetti. I returned to my desk. My phone rang. Lawrence. "Seth, we have a situation. Ship stuck in the Panama Canal. We need a reroute plan in the next 2 hours, or we lose the delivery window." I smiled, pulled up the map. The machine was humming again, and I was the one with my hands on the controls. "I'm on it," I said. I put on my headset, pulled up the carrier network. The screen lit up with routes, coordinates, possibilities. "Let's move some freight," I said to the empty office, and for the first time in 19 years, I didn't need a cigarette to get through the stress. I had something better. I had power. Thanks for watching, you corporate survivors. Hit that subscribe button. Unless you're Nathan Corwin, then you can enjoy your prison cafeteria food.